All right, guys. Appreciate y'all being here. We wrapped up camp Saturday night. Cool day on Saturday. We had close to 300 former players here, had our family picnic, so it was good to see so many of our guys' families here. Had over 1,000 people here for practice, which brought some cool energy for our kids. I thought we finished well. I'm not big on necessarily giving praise, but I thought it was really intentional. Those last couple of days of fall camp can sometimes feel like the end of fall camp. We challenged our guys, and they responded. We had a long, hard go at it Saturday. I think they were as intentional as they had been on Saturday, which was good to see. And now we got to grow from that this week as we go in. We left Saturday relatively healthy. Nothing new really health-wise to update from what we talked about at the scrimmage. And that's a credit to a lot of people, but happy with how we came out health-wise. Turned our attention to Baylor starting yesterday, going into this mock week. The biggest thing for us, especially here year one, it's the first time for everybody. It's the first time for the players, first time for our coaches, first time for our staff. So a lot of teaching on how we want it, what we want, collectively, what I expect, both from the players' perspective and from the kids, and from our staff. So a lot of teaching yesterday, a lot of teaching today, again, going through how it needs to look. Biggest thing for our kids, the challenge, and we talked about it this morning extensively in our first team meeting of the week, is just the focus piece, the ability to eliminate distractions, the ability to lock in. I talked about maturity and where we are. That's my concern right now, is just truly, I don't doubt these guys will go play ball and will go play hard, but the ability to limit distractions. And if we can handle that, I feel pretty good with where we're at. Biggest thing for us this week, and I talked to the guys literally, how do we win this week? The ability to get ahead. If we look at it as, man, it's an extra week, I think sometimes you can neglect some things that are critically important. We're treating Saturday as if we're playing. We'll finish the week with a mock game, and work a lot of situational stuff, work a lot of substitution stuff, work a lot of coming off the sideline, just continue kind of where we left off in that last scrimmage. But for our guys to use this week as it is a normal week and perfect their process. It's different, it's unique. You're going from practicing 6 times in a week to practicing really 2 hard on-the-field practices. So the ability to get their legs back, the ability to get healthy here this week, but for them to be able to operate, and us as coaches as well. Like I said, so much teaching going on, but what does that really look like? What does a game week look like? What does prep at an elite level look like? And that started yesterday. So I'm excited with where we are. There's a lot of teaching from my end this whole week. That way we get to next week and we can essentially circle back on our process, make sure we're where we need to be. Baylor also has the week, so there's no real advantage unless we take it and run with it like we need to, and then hopefully prepare harder than them. Outside of that, we'll start game week next week with an event called Victory Day Sunday night. We started this a couple years ago at the last place, where we're going to have right around 50 young men and women that all have disabilities on different levels that are going to come in and spend the day with our players. We'll finish the day over at the stadium with some cool stuff. Our band's involved, our cheerleaders are involved, and I'm grateful for our campus partners for partnering with us to get the week started off the right way, and it'll be a fun event Sunday night for those kids, and honestly just as much for our players and our staff. So that's where we are. I'll take questions.
Go Jason, Bill, Peter, Mike, and then we'll get to
the next round. Jason Caldwell, Auburn 247. Just where did the mock game week kind of idea come from? Do you remember where you kind of maybe first picked that up to begin with, and how important is it to leave no detail unchecked as you get ready for game week?
Yeah, I think the mock game week piece has been going on for a long time. I go back to there's so many different ways we've done this thing. I remember 2008, Oklahoma State, and it didn't look like what Mike Gundy wanted it to look like. We ended up running 110, 110s. So I kind of thought at that point, man, I don't know, maybe we just tell them what to do ahead of time and then we don't have to do all that. Honestly, it's it's a dress rehearsal of a week. I've stressed to our guys that it needs to look like a normal week and figure out. I mean, everything from when am I watching film on my own? When am I watching film with the coaches? When do I take a nap in the middle of the day if I'm a nap guy? Like everything, you want it to be ironed out. The worst thing I think you can do from a player perspective is just have inconsistency. On one week it looks like this, the next week it looks like this, and then I can't quite. I mean, we put all that together into what your process looks like, but and then you wonder, man, why am I performing at a certain level one week and not the next? And so the challenge to the players is, man, like make it feel as normal as you can, and we will do the same in terms of how we practice. For the coaches, especially in year one, what does a prep week really look like? And we're morning practice, you're up against it a little bit. You know, like this morning we're on the field, and that means last night was a long night to get ready for what we got to get ready for this morning, and then same thing into tomorrow, into Wednesday. For a lot of guys, they've not done that. So you're losing, compared to an afternoon practice team, half a day of prep. And so what does that really look like? So honestly, like I've bounced back and forth between the offense and defense all morning of, man, are we where we need to be? Like listen, 5 o'clock tonight, like we're rolling. So let's make sure we're right. And you have a plan until you go and you try to execute it, and then you adjust as you go. But I think as much of a dress rehearsal as you can have from a game plan perspective. And I've challenged our coaches to, man, like don't treat it like a mock week, treat it like a normal game week, because what happens sometimes too is you treat it like a mock week, and it's like, well, we'll just get to that next week, or man, we'll just put in a bunch and then we'll cut back, which is also could be detrimental in a lot of ways. I've been guilty of that. So I think just a culmination. I've seen different people do it different ways. For me, you treat it like a normal game week. We obviously don't play anybody Saturday, but we'll go out and we'll practice and then truly coordinate a game-like situation in terms of substitutions on, off, everything from special teams to special situations to sub packages on and off, turnovers, subbing off the sideline, all these things that, because still to this day have not been on the same sideline at the same time, working through substitutions and flow of game. So we need it. We need it as a staff. I think as you get further and further into a program, you probably need that less and less, but we need it as a staff. Purely communication, offense to defense to special teams, all of it.
Coach Michael Giddens, War Report, Auburn. Can you, you said you turned your attention to Baylor yesterday or day before. Can you talk about what challenges you've seen that they present for you guys coming up next Saturday? And how does having a player like Bryson Washington, who was obviously with that team last year, help you maybe prepare for this game?
Yeah, Mike, I think unique prep week one is always unique, especially if there's coaching changes. Obviously, drastically unique for them. Now they played Auburn a year ago. Defensively, there's some familiarity there. Unique offensively for us, simply because of a coordinator change on defense. So week one is always an interesting chess match because you've got multiple things you're looking at and you're trying to guess a lot. And so that's what makes it kind of unique. So you take this extra week, which sometimes, again, could be detrimental because now you're just digging deeper and deeper, which could either mean you're going to be more detailed or it can mean that you're just going down rabbit holes that don't exist. But we've looked at every bit of information you can to try to narrow down exactly what it's going to look like. And the challenges these guys present, new quarterback, was in this league at his best, is as good of a quarterback as there is in the country. And that's what we're preparing for defensively. An offense that a year ago, once they got going, could tempo you, which feel like we're at least prepared in that regard, but explosive throughout the year a year ago. Defensively, coaching change with the defensive coordinator coming in from Kansas State. Obviously, Coach Aranda has made a name as a defensive guy for a really long time in this league and around the country. So you're trying to work through what that's going to look like, and that'll present some challenges in itself. There's a ton of new guys, and so you're watching film of schools all over the place to try to get truly from a personnel report on both sides of the ball. So very much some unknowns, and that's probably the biggest challenge. And so you're trying to do what you do while still being prepared for the unknown, and that's challenge number one. Bryson, right now is just working on making sure he's ready to rock and roll. I haven't picked his brain a whole lot, but we'll sit down here as we go and see what he knows. But man, he had a great game against Auburn a year ago and had two really, really good seasons there. So we'll certainly pick his brain and see what he's got. But I know he's excited for the game in a lot of ways.
We're down to one mic, so we'll try to keep it up here in the front and go back to Peter, Bird, Nathan.
Peter Atticus, AL.com. What's Trey Taylor's status after the most recent court ruling, and what made him somebody that you wanted to bring to the program?
Yeah, Trey right now is eligible to practice. We're still waiting on man, if you can keep up with what's going on, God bless you. But right now, from our compliance, he's eligible to practice, not eligible to compete yet, as the back and forth of the TROs and the NCAA go. So he's practicing with us. The reason to bring him in, and we recruited Trey a couple years ago when he was coming out of Tyler. The skill set as a returner was the most intriguing piece. He's been productive as a wideout. Coming in as late as he did into camp, he's trying to get caught up offensively. I thought coming in, honestly, the biggest value you have that doesn't take as much schematic work, I guess, you would say, would be just the return value as a kick and a punt returner. He was as dynamic the last 2 years, both at Coastal and at Troy, as a returner. Hopefully, as he gets cleared, we'll be able to use him in that way. But we haven't done just a ton with him on offense as he's tried to figure out and learn what the heck is going on. But what an incredible young guy. Like, I thought that coming out of Tyler, just a special young man that one, is really, really smart, but two, hungry to go get one more year of college football. He's a neat young guy that's really hungry. He's come in here and kind of gained everybody's respect really quickly, and he's a cool cat. I really like Trey. So, but that was the reason we thought as a return guy could certainly help us, and then we'll see as he integrates into the offense how he could help us. We got to get over the hurdle of having him eligible for competition here first.
Justin Ferguson, Auburn Observer. You had said that you wanted like that main rotation of 6 at wide receiver, and then maybe a 7th or 8th guy. Just as you guys transition into game prep, was that kind of looking like? Do you feel like you guys have gotten that's down to that 6 and 7 guy in the rotation?
Yeah, Justin, I think we're close. You get really young really quickly there, but really talented, and that's the piece. I think when I talked about like figuring out what does your process look like, I'm pointing a lot to Brian Williams and Deshaun Spencer and these guys that have never played a down of college football. Like, it's those guys that you're pointing to and saying, man, like, this is what it actually takes to prepare for a game. And those guys are just, I mean, you got to think a year ago they were going out and playing Friday night and they were the best players on the field and it was easy. And so how fast can those guys mature? So we do have numbers-wise, there are 6 that we feel good about with a potential 7th, like Sam Turner coming on as camp went, I think gives us a lot of flexibility there. He's healthy. He's just learning and gaining confidence. I think he's kind of that wild card in the sense of missed spring, missed a large chunk of summer, is just learning and figuring out what it is to play snap to snap. But he's smart, he's mature, he's He's got really good hands. It's just getting back into it. He's missed almost a full year of football, so he's kind of that where does he fit in the rotation? These guys are continuing to compete. I do feel like we got 6. I just feel like we're young. Once you get past that first group, you're young. And so how do you play those guys throughout where you're not out there with 3 freshmen all at the same time? And that'll be our challenge as KB works through that and we work through truly series to series what that looks like. I'll feel a lot better as we get a couple games under our belt and say, man, like they are learning and figuring it out. The unfortunate part is you get a couple games under your belt, you're starting SEC play at the same time. So it's just like that learning curve and the growth has got to happen congruently. That would be a good word. Like they get old quick and we get better on offense. It's got to come together at the same time.
Nathan King, Auburn 247. Where do you feel like this offense is right now in terms of getting ready for a game? Obviously, fall camp is over. You've had an off-season worth of practices and prep. Where do you feel like this group is to go play a game in 2 weeks on offense?
Yeah, Nathan, I kind of go back to the same as where the receiver situation, where we are light years ahead. And all I can compare it to is the last 2 places running a similar offense in year 1. We're light years ahead primarily because of the quarterback being in it and understanding the fine nuances of where we are. So we're not starting at square one. It certainly helps to have the center that's played in it, that understands it, and so much of it goes through him as well. Helps to have some wideouts that have played in it, and certainly they're a huge part of how we go offensively. I think my biggest concern is purely the youth of the depth, and that's why I say like the wideout position is just about everywhere else except probably running back and tight end. You feel like you get really young really quickly after that, and so the challenge for us is how fast can we get those guys to grow up, and they've been challenged now. Like they have been challenged in every way. In the same breath, that quarterback room, after Byram, it's some experience, but not experience in what we do. So we're trying to accelerate the growth as fast as we can, but I feel young. So if it's just 11-on-11 ball, I feel like we're light years ahead. Once you start subbing out a little bit, which inevitably you do, you start feeling really young, and that'll be the challenge for us is can we get those young guys to grow up really quickly?
Alex, Justin Hoganson, Auburn Sports, sort of piggybacking on what Nathan said. Talk about Byram as someone who prepares for game week. Like, how does he prepare when it's? I mean, you're almost a game week, mock game week. Like, what is he like in terms of preparing for a game, and how important is he to this sort of new look offense especially these first few games when it comes to here's how we got to prepare, film room, strategy, all that stuff?
Yeah, Justin, he's, I've said it before, he is, now in his 5th year, like as particular as anybody I've ever been around in terms of what their process looks like. And that's what his Sunday looks like into Monday, into Tuesday. He truly is like a coach. I mean, he was here all day yesterday. He's 2 doors down, sitting there watching film. He's super, super particular, and that's like everything from when he eats to truly the order and the sequence of which he watches, to then his prehab into his rehab. Like all of it is down to the minute. Like I have my schedule for the week down to the minute. He has his schedule down to the minute. He's working on a master's, so like that piece is also important to him, and so that's somewhere in there. But when you talk about elite process, like he is the prime example of what it looks like to prepare, and I think that's why he's so hard on himself too. Because if it doesn't go his way, he goes right back to man, like where did I jack up my process? That's what I think. That's how you know the maturity level's there, because it's never ever, man, something didn't go well, it's his fault. It's his fault. It's always, man, somewhere in my process I skipped a step. How do I go back and reevaluate my process? So I think I mentioned it earlier, maybe 2 weeks ago, like like along with him, then you see Tristan and Reese and Locke. They're like little ducklings that just follow him around. And that's truly how you build a program. Like, big picture is if every room has that, you've got a chance to where young guys are pointing to the older guys and saying, all right, that's what elite level process looks like. To be honest with you, that's where I have continued to harp on we need to be. And I've talked about lack of leadership in a lot of ways. Like, that's what we're pushing for in every single room, is that. We don't have that in every room right now. Like I mentioned before, like, some of our best players on both sides of the ball are young guys. And so if they don't have that, then it's the coaches leading that. And you'll plateau somewhere when the coaches are truly leading it. I think that room I feel really, really good about. The neat thing about Byram, he's confident enough now in his 5th year that there's wideouts in there with him. There's tight ends in there with him. And it gives confidence to the entire organization when you see your quarterback is here all day. I've joked about it before, but it's so true. Like if that dude shows up here before me, he'll take a picture of my parking spot and be like, where are you at? Now, at the same time, I'll send him a picture when I'm leaving and say, hope sleep is going well. But that's how he is. Like, he sees himself very much as a coach.
Go Bill O'Brien.
That's happened like once in 4 years.
Bill Cameron, ESPN 106.7. We've talked a good bit about the offensive line all camp, and I know you guys feel like you've got 7 or 8. Are you closer to feeling like you've got that unit? Because I know chemistry, cohesiveness is really important. You feel pretty good about getting that group together?
I do. I feel like we got a group that's really, really tight right now. We've got a group that's worked incredibly hard to establish an identity. I feel like we've got a group that, until we go play, truly go play, I don't know what the confidence level will look like. And I say that in the sense of, you just went through 3 weeks of as crazy of practice as you can imagine. Like this defense forces you to be, 1, super, super sound, but 2, have adjustments and checks to just about everything, on top of some really good players up front. Like you got dudes rushing edges that if you're not confident in yourself, they'll make you question your talent level. And that's just the truth. Like, these edge rushers can do some really special things. I think our depth inside has really grown on the defensive front, so they challenge you. And so we've got a group that's really close. We've got a group that's trying to figure out exactly who they are in terms of, they know what they want to be, but truly who they are. This week will be really good for us to go against a scout team to kind of get a really good feel going. And I don't mean to make it sound like the offensive line hadn't won their fair share of battles, because they have, but it's just getting ready to go play somebody else, I think, is a really, really good change-up for them. And it'll certainly prepare them for the season and what's coming, because everybody else in this league is very similar. But they are coming together and taking a lot of pride in what they're doing. That part I'm confident on. Similar to the wideout room, similar to the quarterback room, once you get past really the top 6, you're young and talented, but young. And so those guys are going to have to grow up to give us that 7 and 8 for us to really feel good about where we are. But we'll go as the O-line goes, and they know that. Hoodie knows that. That whole O-line crew knows that. And the challenge has been to be the best unit on the field, and that's how they've been coached. So they're coming. I'm excited to see them go play somebody else that's not a Jared Smith or a Womack rushing off the edge for the first time in a while.
Go Brian, Jerry, Jeff, and we'll finish.
Alex, Brian Matthews, AuburnSports.com. When it comes to in-game decisions, timeouts, field goals, going for it on 4th down, do you have a book that you go by pretty rigidly, or do you have a book that you just kind of refer to and then try to make gut decisions in those moments?
The theoretical book. We use analytics like a majority of people do. We've got guys on both sides of the ball that help me on the analytics side throughout the game. We study the analytics heavy going into the game, meet throughout the week on situations. Ultimately, in game, I would tell you it's really, really heavy gut on how the flow of the game is going. I think it's important to be ahead of it in the sense of offensively, your plan to go for it on fourth or not. Certainly, you do use, quote unquote, the book in terms of 2-point plays, in terms of how many drives you feel like you've got before you get into a 2-minute or a 4-minute situation. But in terms of in the flow of the game, especially offensively, the way you play, you better know what you're doing on second down before you ever get to fourth down, in the sense of the chances you're willing to take. A lot of it has to do with who you're playing. A lot of it has to do with the flow of the game. A lot of it has to do with how good you feel about your fourth down calls and your short yardage calls in general. It's different. It goes week to week. But I think you need to know going in what the thought process is. Your staff has to know what your thought process is. But ultimately, as you go through it, like I'll never stand up here and say, man, the book said to go for it. I don't know why we didn't get it. Because ultimately, I've said it before, but we could have a really good plan, then we got to go execute it, because good plans executed poorly would be considered bad plans, Jason.
Jerry.
All lived it.
Jerry Humphrey, AL.com, Coach. With all the red zone prep you guys did during camp, I guess how comfortable are you guys going in short yardage situation come a game?
You asking red zone or short yardage?
Red zone specifically.
Okay. Or short yardage in the red zone. Man, I'm excited about where we've grown from a red zone perspective offensively. Having these tight ends is really helpful. Having these bigger backs is helpful, and we're big at wide out, which is also helpful. That's where especially in this league, size shows up or lack of size shows up. So I like where we are from a size perspective down there. We've hammered home being able to run the football. The red zone's an interesting spot for us simply because of the tempo which we play. A lot of the time, it all depends on how you got there, but a lot of the time it's two tired line of scrimmage groups it's a battle of wills, but I like where we are size-wise. I like where we've gotten to with our plan. And that offensive staff has done a good job of continuing to grow in terms of who we are and what we do from a red zone, tight zone perspective. But like where we are from a short yardage perspective, it goes back to this whole line. Like, count on those guys in a big way. And but having bigger backs, Jeremiah, Bryson, Omar, Nakai, like those guys being bigger backs helps. And as the year goes, it'll show up more and more.
Jeff Shear, AuburnTigers.com. Wanted to follow up on Victory Day. What did you see when you did this previously? What your players got out of it, and why was it important to kick off game week with a high-profile event like this?
Yeah, we started this at Iowa State, and give Matt Campbell a lot of credit. I had not done it till I got with Matt, and it was one of the neater nights of the year. I thought we'd always done it either the Sunday before the season starts or 2 weeks out, and it was like just it gives you a second to take a deep breath and realize just how grateful we all are to be where we are and have what we have. And when I got to South Florida, we started doing it, and man, it became a yearly deal where our players are partnered up with young men and women in our community. And year in, year out, they would continue to be partnered up with the same young guys, and it's 3 hours on a Sunday night where you can give back to something, one, really powerful, but two, gives you a second to reflect on just how fortunate we really are to do what we do, and on a stage like this, you sometimes lose track. You're so locked into what's going on, and me especially, like. I just said no distractions, and here we are. We're going to do a 3-hour deal Sunday before we play on Saturday. But I told our staff, and my wife knows this, like that is literally my favorite night of the year because it is just a couple hours away from ball, and you get an opportunity to one, give back. I'm curious to see how it goes Sunday, but every time we've done it, every year we walk away and our players are like, man, we got a lot more out of that than any young boy or girl did. But they'll all get to score touchdowns at Jordan-Hare, which is everybody's dream come true in a lot of ways. And for these young guys and gals, it'll be pretty special to be able to go score and one, run out of the tunnel, two, score a touchdown with our offense and our defense on the field, and we'll have our band or cheer again. It'll be really, really neat, and I'm grateful to all of them for partnering with us to get this done. Again, it's also their Sunday night before the first game, but it'll be a neat deal.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, guys. War Eagle.